to go. And just a few numbers of the day, and then we've got some important announcements in relation to kinder and childcare testing. There's been a tweet go out already as usual. There'll be a Chief Health Officer release a bit later in the day, but there are 9,785 additional cases reported today, both self-reporting and also positive PCR results out of our laboratories. Sadly, I can confirm that some 20 Victorians with COVID have passed away. We send our best wishes and sympathies and condolences to their families. It'll be an incredibly difficult time for them. My advice is that those individuals were aged in their 70s, 80s and 90s. But again, we send our deepest sympathies to those families. We have hit the 46% mark for third doses 18 plus, so those numbers continue to grow, and that's fantastic news for the additional protection from critical illness and indeed from being in hospital. If you've got a third dose, you're less likely to get this, you're less likely to give it to someone else, and you're certainly less likely to finish up very, very unwell. There are 575 Victorians who are in hospital, and of course we send our best wishes to them. We thank the teams of dedicated health professionals who are caring for them, who are doing their level best under extreme pressure, just because of fatigue. It's been 2 very long years. A lot of staff are furloughed, they have to be at home, so everybody in that system is working as hard as they possibly can, and we're very grateful to them. 575 total, 72 in intensive care and 30 that are on a ventilator. And I'm told that we are just only fractionally short of 50%, 5 to 11, we're at something like 49.9+%. So that's another great outcome as well. Today I'm here with the Deputy Premier and Education Minister just to add to the very successful rollout of rapid antigen tests across our school system. We've seen that both in primary and secondary schools, special schools, teachers and staff, parent community, students, all working together. Those 2 rapid antigen tests each week for staff, for students. It's about peace of mind. It's about acknowledging that when you bring literally hundreds of thousands of people together that had not been together, because school of course was not up and running because of the summer break, there will be additional cases. If you can find those cases, then you can do something about it. You can isolate people, you can try and cut off those chains of transmission. This is all logical. It is all based on the fact that we've got to get our kids back, and we have, and that's something that we should all be very pleased with. Day 1, term 1, and every day since has looked a bit different, but we've had our kids back in the classroom, and that's a fantastic thing, an absolutely fantastic thing. So today we can confirm that we will expand the rapid antigen test system, those 2 tests a week. At the moment, staff in childcare, we know that takes many different forms, but also in kinder are being tested twice a week. We're going to extend that over the next 10 days or so to students aged 3 to 5, so students and kids who are in childcare. So this is all about giving parents peace of mind. It's all about trying to support every family to have that peace of mind, to have a sense of certainty about whether their child has got this virus. It is wildly infectious. It can, particularly amongst young people, you can have it and not necessarily present with any symptoms. So this expansion of our school rapid antigen test program to kinders and childcare for students and our smallest Victorians, that's a great boost forward. 3 to 5, 2 tests a week. They'll be rolled out progressively over the next week to 10 days, giving parents the peace of mind that I know they want. Now, this won't be for every child. It's not compulsory. It's something that we would recommend. It's something that we make possible by providing these tests. But not every child will necessarily easily participate in this program. Some kids it's fine, something quite an easy thing. For other kids, less so. So we fully appreciate that, and that's why we're rolling this out, giving people the option. It's all about assisting people, families, wherever we can, to try and manage this Omicron outbreak and to push past this, to, as many people use the term, to live with this virus. Obviously, this has worked very well in schools, and we're confident that it will work well in childcare, in its many different forms, and of course in kinder as well. To add to my comments and overview. I'm now going to ask James to talk about some of the specifics, and then we're happy to take any questions you have.
Terrific, thanks Dan. So procuring additional supply of rapid antigen tests means we've got the ability to expand it as the Premier has outlined. So this is an additional 1.6 million rapid antigen tests that will be delivered firstly to sessional kindergarten over the next week and a half, and then will flow through to long day care, family day care, occasional care. So sessional kindergartens and then through for the rest of childcare. And this is in addition to the 943,000 rapid antigen tests that we are already supplying to staff in kindergarten and in childcare. And Dan's right. We're really pleased with how the first week and a bit of school has gone, and the delivery of the rapid antigen tests. We have identified positive cases, and we knew that there would be positive cases. Once you do the surveillance testing, we'll see those numbers, and I'll take you through the latest in a moment. But it also means we get to those cases early, and this will overall drive numbers down because you're identifying the cases early, you're stopping the transmission. No school has had to close their doors and go to remote learning due to COVID, and indeed no school has had to call on the pool of former retired teachers and retired principals that we've got standing ready for any school that is struggling with staff absences. So to give you some of the numbers, the most up-to-date numbers for yesterday, 2,368 students, and we always knew, it's common sense, a couple of days over the weekend, being out and active in the community, there'd always be a slightly higher number for Monday, and 125 staff. In terms of the cumulative number, that's 7,046 students and 925 staff. So that's 0.7% of students and 0.84% of staff. And interestingly, staff absences right now are less than pre-pandemic levels in 2019. That's a reflection of the dedication of our teachers, support staff and principals, and also how firstly mandating vaccines and then doing the surveillance testing is really making a difference. But the feedback we've got from principals, from teachers, from parents and from students is that the voluntary but highly recommended 2-day-a-week rapid antigen testing is really providing confidence and comfort to everyone in our schools, and teachers and students are just loving to be back at school. And for those reasons, we wanted to expand it as soon as we were able to procure additional supplies of rapid antigen tests. We wanted to expand that to children 3 to 5 in kindergarten and childcare. Thank you.
I have a lot of feedback that parents are very much loving it. The kids are back at school too. So it's got to be done safe, and this expansion of that rapid antigen test system to our smallest Victorians, whether they're in childcare in all of its different forms or at kinder, it's just a logical thing to do. So they'll be rolled out over the next week or 10 days, and we'll keep you informed.
With so many cases still in schools, do you extend the 4-week program initially? Is that going to extend through the first term?
Look, I was talking to Premier Daniel over the weekend. They've had, similar to us, they've had great feedback. Parents are reassured by this, staff I think are reassured by this. Families are better off and the system is safer when you can find those cases, and there'll continue to be cases. It's not like it's going to come to a hard end at the end of four weeks. But we will review that properly, just as we said we would, and whether there's a change to that system, whether it's extended. It's a bit early for us to say. It runs out to the end of this month. So we'll have further announcements, and we'll make sure that schools and parents and the entire education community have got the clarity they need.
Do you have a supply to keep that going for March?
Yes, we've seen more orders land. We're seeing we've got sufficient supply to do what we're doing now. That won't be a limiting factor. It'll be more about whether the advice is that there's a sufficient prevalence of cases to justify doing it. And the other thing too, I just mentioned this because it's appropriate that they be given some credit. The Commonwealth Government are paying for half those tests, so we'll have to have a conversation with them too, Richard.
Can I just check in terms of parents reporting the results of these? Are they doing it through the normal positive system that the Department of Health set up, or is it actually through childcare centres and schools themselves?
It'll be the same as the arrangements that operate through school. So we're basically extending what occurs now. So you inform the department of a positive case. If it's a rapid antigen test, then you do that yourself. Report that via the coronavirus website. Then the school or similar facility will be told of that positive case, and then they're in a position to be able to inform the rest of the school or the relevant group within the school, and people can take steps from then. Look, everyone should be monitoring for symptoms every single day, and if you don't feel well, just like mum or dad shouldn't go to work, their son or daughter should not go to school or childcare or kinder. These tests just assess or just help to assess that, because what we know is that with so many young people, they can have it and not necessarily be unwell.
Did you do rapid antigen tests this morning?
I'll be doing one before I go over to Palm.
Do you have any thoughts on the federal government's religious discrimination?
We don't just think about these things, we're getting on and doing it, and our priorities are very clear. We made election commitments, we are delivering them, because it's what Victorians voted for. I think everybody should be treated fairly, properly, and that's exactly the arrangements that we have in place and the proposals that we've put forward. In terms of the interaction between changes at the Victorian level and the Commonwealth level, well, there's a few things to be settled there in that they haven't occurred yet. It's all kind of speculative, but the Attorney-General yesterday made our position very clear, and I'd leave it to her to update you.
Has the state government received any formal legal advice?
Sorry, Josh, I just missed the first bit.
Has the state government received any formal legal advice on what options may be open to Victoria in terms of challenging those provisions?
What I'd say to you is that Jack is probably the best person to talk to in that regard, but she made some comments yesterday and made it very clear on behalf of the government that we would use any and all legal avenues to defend those who ought to be treated fairly and equally and might not be under any arrangements where a Commonwealth Act overrode or set aside provisions of a State Act that had duly passed the Parliament, that was part of a policy proposal that was put to the electorate and was voted for. These are exactly the laws that Victorians voted for, and I'm sure that the Attorney will have put that view confident in it. I won't talk about specific legal advice.
So what do you make of trans students not being protected in that bill?
I think everyone should be treated equally. And before, our anti-vax friends take issue with that statement, at the end of the day, people should get vaccinated. That's about keeping everyone safe, including them, and not having our hospitals full of people who made the wrong choice. In terms of equality in its broader context, we've always been very clear about this. Like we attempted to make these changes and the upper house defeated them last term. We then recommitted to them. We have put that to the Victorian community, and the Victorian community have voted for those changes. I want every student treated equally. I want every Victorian to be confident, safe, respected, included for who they are. And I must say, it's pretty offensive for some in the community to equate sexual orientation or gender identity to a choice not to get vaccinated. That's the wrong choice. People's identity is not a matter of choice. Who you are is who you are. Who you love is a matter for you. And you should be treated fairly and equitably, and you should not be discriminated against based on who you are. That's just my view. It also happens to be the view of the Victorian community, who did us the great honour of electing us in record terms at the 2018 poll.
Just on the motion that Mr Adam Somyurek has given notice to crossbenchers that he may move in the upper house, referring the red shirts affair or matter to the Ombudsman or IBAC, does that concern you at all? And would you welcome another investigation potentially by IBAC into this matter?
I've got no comment to make on those matters at all. They're matters for the Legislative Council.
Premier, what do you make of international borders reopening in 2 weeks and with the 2 doses rather than having to have 3?
Well, two points in your very good question. Firstly, look, I think all of us were a bit bemused at the timeline that had been put forward by the Commonwealth Government around Easter. I thought that was quite some time off, and perhaps we could do better than that. It's great yesterday that the Commonwealth were able to confirm that it will be much sooner than that. That's good. Good for the economy, good for jobs. So that's something that we fully support. The fact that being vaccinated remains a requirement, other than a small capped number of people who can come in without having been vaccinated, that's obviously a really, really good outcome. And it's about getting back to normal as best we can in the midst of a global pandemic with these variants of concern. On the issue of 2, 3, whatever it finishes up being, that's a matter for ATAGI in the first instance. And I'm sure that the Commonwealth Government will reserve the right to change its view based on advice that comes from experts. I think that ATAGI must be getting very, very close. If not already, they must be getting very close to making that decision. And we've got a National Cabinet meeting on Thursday, and hopefully we can receive either before then or at that meeting a positive report, because all the international evidence, all the advice I get from our team is that 3 doses is what's required in order to be as safe as you can be, in order to be protected. So let's wait and see what that advice says.
If ATAGI was to change their advice to 3 doses, would you expect the government to change their advice to?
Oh, look, you'd have to speak to them about that, but that would be consistent with the approach they've taken. I think all governments have certainly tried to take over a long period of time. Let's just wait and see what ATAGI comes up with. But I think it's highly likely that the weight of evidence suggests that a booster or a 3rd dose is not really an optional extra. It's critically important, and it's not just for now, it's also for whatever comes at us when the weather turns, later in the year, all of those things. So let's wait and see. Hopefully that's not too far off.
Would it be your view that that should apply to international travellers as well, that 3 dose, even if it might be a deterrent to tourists coming here?
Well, it'll apply here, in the state of Victoria, as far as those who get into the country and the circumstances in which they get into the country. I think we have well established, back and across the net, we've well and truly established that is a matter for the Commonwealth Government.
Does the border announcement change anything for our hotel quarantine program? Are you looking at rescaling that back up, putting more workforce on?
We don't have many people in hotel quarantine at the moment, and that's a good thing because we've got a very small number of people who are coming here that are not vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you can go and do your quarantine at home. There are some people who don't have a home-like environment to go to, or they might have a vulnerable person in their home who they don't want to run the risk of potentially infecting them. I can get some exact numbers for you, but that program is tapering off. But there is a capped number, and one of the many good things about yesterday's announcement is that those capped arrangements will remain in place. So we're only talking about a couple of hundred people a week, possibly. I don't know that we've necessarily been at full odds in recent weeks. Certainly, it seems to be coming down, which is good because it's not cheap to run, and it also tells you a pretty important story that people are getting vaccinated, not just here, but indeed the world over.
But could we run into a situation where tourists are arriving here, even fully vaccinated, testing positive, and then their hotels won't take them because they're positive, so they need to go into a hotel quarantine situation?
Yeah, look, I think that's something that we'll need to work through. We would always look to take care of people that are here, whether they're a permanent resident, an Australian citizen, or whether they're here visiting us. That's no different than exactly the same person needed health care, then there are arrangements in place for that. Those matters, I'm sure, will be being worked through by CQV at the moment. But it's good that we've got people coming back here. There's so many industries that are supported, or so many industries that are absolutely, their success is tied to people coming and visiting us. So getting that back to normal is a really good thing, together with international education, business travel, all those things that all come over time. It's exactly what we want.
What do you make of
It's all right. I'm not running away. I haven't done that perhaps ever, really. You guys work yourself. Well, who wants to go next?
Rich.
Rich.
Do you still need Nicola if the orders are changing, rules are changing?
Yeah, I think that having I don't want to appear critical. I think if we all had our time again, a facility like that, perhaps in every capital city, would have been good to have. It wasn't there. That's not a criticism. That's just a fact. I think we're better off for having a purpose-built infection control, very, very specifically designed facility where the open air is used to try and assist. I'm not here today to speculate on whether we're going to face other pandemics in the future, but it's an investment. It isn't a cost. It's an investment, and look, we hope we don't have to use it for natural disasters, but it may well be a facility that would be very useful to support the vulnerable in a fire or whatever it might be. So I think it is an investment for the future. It can be expanded, and Commonwealth governments pay for the construction. It's on their land. Victorians pay for the ongoing costs based on how many people are there. So that's all about need.
Are you expecting your government to be part of opening that facility, given the role that both levels of government are playing?
So who will cut the ribbon, you think? I'm not certain about that. That hasn't been a high priority for me, but somebody will, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe we'll just get on with it.
We're coming up to a federal election, and I imagine the federal government's going to want to sort of have a lot of fanfare around opening that facility. Do you think they'll want a Victorian Labor government there with them?
I'm not sure whether they... I don't know. You have to ask them. I've cut more ribbons than most, which is just a fact. We've got the biggest infrastructure agenda in this state's history. And that's what I'm focused on, and continuing to deliver that, whether it's level crossings, hospitals, schools, road and rail. That's what I'm focused on. The ribbons or no ribbons out at Mickleham, you need to speak to the federal government about that.
Just on Mickleham, when do you anticipate the first people will be taken to that?
It's a very good question, and I'll have CQV come back to you about it.
With regards to the announcement from the Commonwealth about the Defence Force moving in to support aged care, what's your reaction to that, and are they going far enough?
Well, look, every support for private sector aged care is very important. We've had a very small number of cases in public sector aged care, but we're very vigilant about that. We're working as hard as we can. I think we are blessed to have ratios and have minimum staffing levels within public sector aged care, and the data certainly supports that. I think private sector aged care is doing it incredibly tough at the moment, and our thoughts are with residents, with staff, and of course with families. So I think it's a good thing to send in additional staff. Others can make judgments about whether that's enough. It should be based on need. If we can help, then of course we will. But we've got a bit to be going on with ourselves, not in aged care so much, but in dealing with so many other issues. But if there's things we can do, and no doubt this will be something that will be talked about at National Cabinet later on this week.
Are there lessons that the federal government should have learnt from our experience with COVID in aged care in 2020 that clearly weren't ahead of the Omicron crisis?
I'm not here to be a commentator. All I would say is this: it's obviously a different set of challenges now. The nature of the virus has changed, both its infectivity and also the percentage of people who are getting it who are finishing up very, very unwell. And of course we've got 93+% of the community with 2 doses, and 46% of the community 18 and above with 3. So if you want to, you're free to draw conclusions. I'm not going to add to that. If you want to know what's going on in that sector, then you've got to speak, I think, to the federal government, and indeed to the many church and charitable and for-profit businesses who run that sector. We had a Royal Commission into this sector, and we had it for a reason. And today is not the day, or any day really, to be politicking on this. It's our thoughts are with those who are doing their best, I'm sure, and our thoughts are with residents. This is their home after all, and of course with families. This will be a very anxious time for them. And again, I say, if we can do anything, then of course we will. We've got quite a few things that we're focused on at the moment, obviously, but I'm sure ministers are talking, and if there's any assistance we can provide, then of course we would stand ready to do that.
Aged care residents were eligible for a booster at the end of October. We got to the end of January and some still hadn't had one. Is that good enough?
You need to speak to the Commonwealth Government about those matters. I'm not here to be a commentator on those things, other than to say I'd encourage everybody who's eligible for a booster to please go and make an appointment. There are appointments available. It's such a simple but effective thing to do. They're free, they work, they'll keep you out of hospital, and they'll certainly, they'll in all likelihood, they will spare your family the tragedy of really critical illness from this virus. So please, for every good reason, for everyone you love and for people you'll never meet, please go and get your third dose. That's what I've done, that's what my family's done, and we're eligible, and I hope more and more Victorian families make the same choice.
Should we be relying on rapid antigen tests in those aged care settings when there's been a particular case where it wasn't until PCR tests were done that 20 of the residents were identified as actually having COVID? And are you relying on them in the public health aged care settings?
I've got no advice to change the testing regime, that kind of sentinel or surveillance testing in the health system or the aged care system, and accuracy, the kind of efficacy of those tests would be a matter for medical experts. So whether it's AHPPC or others, but I can get someone to come back to you, but I have no advice to say that we should change that.
Are they being used as a surveillance measure in public aged care as well?
Let me come back to you on exactly how we're using them. They're being used right across the health system for staff and to make sure that we're doing everything we can to try and keep the virus out of those care environments. The exact details of that, I'm sure you'd appreciate it. I might need to come back to you on that, and I'm happy to.
Premier, will the government seek to extend to the Parliament the ban on unvaccinated MPs being in the Parliament expires tomorrow?
I don't have any announcements to make about that today. I would leave that to the Leader of the House.
In principle, do you support extension?
Well, in principle, I support people getting vaccinated, and an acknowledgement that if you are not vaccinated, and you can be, then you've made, can I say respectfully, you've made the wrong choice. And it's not just a matter of the government, a majority in both houses approved those arrangements, and it'll be up to both houses to see whether they're extended. From a process point of view, like what's being put before the House, JA is probably best to come back to you on that.
Kevin Sheeter is giving the opposition a bit of a rev up this morning. Does that make you nervous for question time?
It's entirely a matter for him and them.
Is Labor thinking about having another famous name in the rev-up?
Sorry, what was that?
Is Labor having a famous name coming to confirm a motivational speech?
No, we're focused on ordinary Victorians and making sure that they're in work and that we're delivering on all the promises that we made in schools and hospitals, road, rail, fixing the terrible damage that was done to TAFE by those on the other side of the fence. And, you know, we've got a lot to get on with, and we are working hard every single day. That's what we're focused on.
Just back on international borders reopening, what do you make of the situation where we can get tourists from basically anywhere overseas coming here, but Western Australians, if they want to return home, can't come here?
That's a matter for the West Australian government. I made a joke about, kind of a joke about ambassadors the other day, and it became massive front page news. So I'll leave it to you to work that out. Look, all I'd say is this. Premier McGowan and his government have always done what they thought was right for the people of WA. And whether it's in terms of total number of people who have become who have got this virus, so total cases, jobs lost, businesses damaged, the kind of economic activity over in the West. You know, Mark McGowan and his team have always done everything they can to keep their community safe. That's what West Australians would want. That's what we've tried to do here as well. So we're all in different places. We're all in different places, and I think there's a lot of negativity about National Cabinet. I don't buy into that. I think that the fact that we've been able to have national decisions where that was appropriate and a forum to talk about issues and to try and find common ground has been very important. But even more important is that that forum, and I'd say all forums, have and should recognise that each state is in a different place. Mark McGowan's trying to keep this out. I wish him only the best to do that, and I think he's very keen to see his community not just with 2 doses but with 3, and that'll be a good thing for their health system, for the vulnerable in the community. Look, I'm not here to criticise states for doing everything they can to keep their residents safe, and I think I've been pretty consistent on that front.
First day
keep working hard every day to keep people safe, to get people vaccinated, to provide care when people need it, to make sure that our schools and our hospitals are strong, to make sure that we've got jobs, economic activity, confidence, that sense of repair and rebuilding, rejuvenation. This has done a lot of damage. This global event has done a lot of damage. But Victorians, I think, have proven better than many, more than many, that when we stick together, we can achieve almost anything. So I'm very proud of Victoria. We're going to keep working hard for Victorians to make sure that they've got a government that delivers on its promises and a government that's focused on getting things done, following advice and keeping people safe. That's what we offer, plus a big, optimistic and positive agenda for the next 4 years. That's what the rest of this year will be all about, and then it'll be a matter for Victorians whether they choose a proven team that is about getting things done, getting things built, or go a different way. That'll be a matter for them.
Just a question for Mr. Molino. Just with the outcomes test for kinder, will they be available for kids under 3 years old that are going from kinder and childcare?
No, the advice is that the rapid antigen tests are for age 3 to 5. For younger children, for babies and toddlers, it's not recommended that they use rapid antigen tests. So these are for 3-year-old kinder, 4-year-old kinder, and children 3 to 5 in childcare.
It's the William House sorted then. Simon, I have a sense that you had something to make.
If you wouldn't mind, just quickly on Rachel's question regarding Western Australia. Are you aware that the WA government are running authorised ads, a campaign encouraging Victorians to make a life in WA? They're actually ads on the TV, billboards, but they're actually spending money on this. The WA
That's entirely a matter for them. Yeah. There's a few one-liners. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. Let them run their show. They're doing what they think is best for their community. We're doing what we think is best for ours, and it'll be up to our respective communities to make up their own minds. You can write opinion pieces or go and see comment from others. I'm not going to add to that. Any other issues? If not, have a great day.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And we'll probably see you tomorrow.
Cheers. Good luck with the rat test.